All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to AP US History. So today we are going to be talking about Reconstruction. This is basically the rebuilding of the South after the Civil War. So before we get into everything, I got a quick little video here for fun for you guys, and then we'll dive into the info.
The Civil War is now over. Let's see what's in store. Pressure to rebuild the South, to unite the nation back as one. Under pressure, and with Lincoln dead, it falls on my head. Reconstruction, with no black votes free, the South covered in debris. We must act quickly. Us radical Republicans want to punish the South, take all of their old leaders and throw them out. But the South has pledged its loyalty and ratified Amendment 13. So I guess Reconstruction's done. No way! Black coats all around, it's pretty much the same. We have to grant citizenship to former slaves. That's the state's job, and I'd say no. You try to pass them, I'll veto. The Civil Rights Act, I'm a veto. Reconstruction Acts, I'm a veto. You're a terrible president for the vetoes you've tried. But Congress has the power to override, fire instant, and exceed your reach. And now it's time for you to be impeached. Well, it might have been wrong to Ken Stanton under the tenure of office act, but finding Johnson guilty would also be wrong. I say not guilty. Ross, I thought you were on our side. Come on, you can't possibly find him not guilty. Oh yeah, Johnson? Well, don't celebrate, cause you're not re-elected. 1868, U.S. Grant becomes the 18th president. But things turn bad. Those Grant's friends are selfish scoundrels, and the North loses interest in people newly freed, and the South holds them down with Jim Crow and poverty and the Klan, and with the election of Rutherford B. Hayes. This marks the end of Reconstruction. Reconstruction. Welcome back.
All right, so a couple of things that we get to talk about. So African Americans, adjusting to freedom, we're going to see, families trying to be reunited. We're going to start seeing a increase in education for African Americans. We're going to see the first African American colleges, such as Howard, Fisk, Atlanta, and Morehouse. We're going to see a lot of migration, like thousands of people moving from the South to northern cities and out west. We're going to see the forming of the first African American churches and how the ministers of these churches are going to become like the community leaders for these African American communities in different towns and cities. All right, so now let's get into a couple of more things. So, Reconstruction itself, we're going to be starting with what Lincoln, his plan was going to be. So, during the war, before Lincoln was assassinated, we're going to see, he's going to be wanting the 13th Amendment. That's the one that, when passed, officially ended slavery. But building up to that, we're going to see the proclamation of amnesty to Confederates who took oath of allegiance and accepted emancipation of slaves and Reconstruction. So basically, Confederates who said like they would never rebel against the United States again, they pretty much and they have to accept, there are no slaves anymore. Reconstructionists were trying to rebuild the South, basically allowing the involvement of the federal government. All right, the states would have to rewrite their state constitutions in the South, and as long as there was a 10% oath of loyalty taken by the people in charge and the former soldiers, all that loyalty could then be reestablished, and they could start establishing the new state governments. And you see this highlighted part right here with malice toward none and charity for all. That was the overall goal of Lincoln, was that we heal the wounds of the country and we not hold grudges against one another. All right, so that is Lincoln's plan. So we also are going to see the plan of the Congress. There's going to be radical Republicans in the Congress, led by guys like Thaddeus Stevens and Charles Sumner, who say that the South destroyed their state status by committing suicide, and they should be treated as conquerors, like as conquered people. All right. So they want to put heavy punishments on the South for having gone into rebellion, having to be brought back in line, that type of deal. A bit too extreme. And then we have the Wade Davis bill. This would basically have, majority of white voters, all voters must, declare never, having supported the Confederacy, no votes for military or other officials. 50% of votes needed to take the loyalty oath. Lincoln said like this was a bit too extreme. So he's like pocket view. He just left it on his desk until the bill died. All right. After Lincoln's assassination, we have Andrew Johnson becoming the president. Johnson, he was a Southerner. He was a white supremacist. He supported states' rights, and he was a unionist. And unionists that are going to take over Reconstruction. We're basically going to see him want to kind of get things back to the way they were before the war. He would be supporting the denial of Black civil rights. His plan basically is, officers, officials, plantation owners not allowed to take the oath of loyalty, can't vote. So he's going to allow them to be able to vote as long as they take this oath. And we're going to see that he's going to start handing out these pardons so that, we can get, these two, that would basically allow these people to come back into power. Like if they were a government official before and during the war in the southern states. So that is how a lot of former Confederates are going to get back into office, which is going to play into a lot of these racist laws that are going to follow in the southern states, as we will see shortly. Okay. Now, major question of Reconstruction. Was the country broken or not? Like, did that cause it? Lincoln did not think that the country was broken. Johnson did agree, but thought that people responsible for the Civil War should be punished. So we're going to have moderates, people between the two sides, favoring congressional supervision of the South. And radicals would urge that the Union was broken and that the South was conquered, like a conquered foreign country. So Congress is going to see the need to have an alternative to Johnson's plan ready. And we're going to extend the life of the Freedmen's Bureau. This is a bureau that's basically going to help set up organizations for helping provide aid to the newly freed slaves. And they're going to be working for a civil rights bill. Johnson's going to veto it, but Congress is going to override him and be like, no, we're going to have this to protect these people's rights. All right. So congressional reconstruction. So we're going to get cooperation between Johnson and Congress being dead. So Congress is going to just do their own thing, and the president's not really going to be able to do much about it. So this is how we get the 14th Amendment, which has four main things: citizenship for all freed slaves. Confederate debt is going to be void. It doesn't exist anymore. U.S., so the northern states' debt, still holds. Confederate leaders are barred from ever holding office. If the southern states didn't let blacks vote, they would get less representation in Congress. Johnson is going to kind of gum up the works here, and he's basically going to try and get people to not vote to approve this amendment. All right, some more. So Republicans dominate the 1866 elections. So we're going to start seeing a lot more Republican politicians coming into power in a lot of states. They decide that states have to be reorganized. This is how we get some of the Reconstruction Acts, where we're going to set up 5 military districts, and the military is going to supervise the state elections and oversee all political activities in the southern states. So what that means is the black vote is under military protection, stuff like that, which would be the all black males who are adults. We're also going to propose land distribution, not popular enough to get passed. That would be like redistribution, so that black families would gain property as well. And a lot of the large white landowners, they would lose property. The North probably just figured that yeah, it's going to cause a few too many issues. All right, let's watch another video real quick, guys.
That the Civil War is finally over, for answers I need to know. How to rebuild the South, cause it is a mess. How to bring them back into the fold. With emancipation for the 4 million just freed, will it be a fair society? Will the Congress, the president, or the locals be the ones to lead the way? And now I'm wishing that we still had dear Abe Lincoln. Johnson's the president and first to lead. He be granting amnesty, pardoning those who ask him please. Radical Republicans want the South to pay, not making it so easy. Both of them have to agree. We need Amendment 13. Congress passed the Civil Rights Act. Jefferson vetoes it won't enact. Congress overrides him back. This is Reconstruction. The South is split into 5 zones that were militarily run. They impeach but can't convict Johnson. This is Reconstruction. The 14th Amendment. This is Reconstruction. Given due process, equal protection. This is Reconstruction. For blacks, there is a sudden impact. They're freed with nothing, no place to go. So to help them adjust, get educated and such, Congress set up the Freedmen's Bureau. And now that black men can vote, they didn't summon a note, even 1 congressional seats. The black codes were passed to limit their chances, looking like an antebellum repeat. Cause we're saying like, get back to the plantation, it's shallow work, no choices like slavery. Sharecroppers really did see little profit after paying their fee. 15th Amendment was won, granting suffrage to all men allegedly. Poll taxes stopping many, grandfather clauses test illiteracy. Northerners came to help or gain, carpetbaggers became their name. Americans. This is Reconstruction. Amnesty Act grants pardons. This is Reconstruction. Former Confederates can vote again. This is Reconstruction. This is Reconstruction, come on. This is Reconstruction, come on. U.S. Grant becomes president, surrounded by ugly corruption. Economy, it's a depression. End of Reconstruction. Democrats regain the South, and now the North ain't caring about. So the nation plannings is given election. It's the end of Reconstruction. Welcome back, class. My name is...
All right, so let's continue. Now, Johnson, he's going to oppose pretty much everything that the Congress is going to want to put forward. So they're going to start to pass a bunch of laws extending their own power and limiting President Johnson's. So we're going to then see this Tenure of Office Act, where the Senate has the power to approve changes in the cabinet. You know, this was to protect the Secretary of War, Stanton, because he was being cooperative with Congress. So they liked working with him. All these pass over Johnson's vetoes, so they're able to get these approved without the president signing off on them. Johnson is going to retaliate by giving the few sovereign governments that he was able to create in 1865 even more power, and he would try to fire Stanton, but because of these things that he's trying to do to basically go around Congress, they impeach him because he's trying to limit the recovery effort and trying to protect the newly freed African Americans. So he gets impeached. He's brought up on charges, and not exactly good when a president gets put on for impeachment charges. All right. So this will take us to the election of 1868. So we're going to get the Union General Ulysses S. Grant. He looks like he will support congressional Reconstruction efforts. So we're going to see him and Horatio Seymour using the war as campaign tactics. Black voters are going to be a huge part of getting Grant elected because he was the man in charge of the army that fought for their freedom. All right. Now, the radical Republicans in Congress, they're going to pass the 15th Amendment, trying to write equality into the Constitution, but there's going to be a lot of loopholes. The 15th Amendment is the one that grants African-American men the right to vote. All right. But it wasn't solid enough. So a lot of southern states are going to put in a bunch of laws to help limit the ability to vote for African-American men, which will later, after women are allowed to vote in 1920, it would limit their ability as well. It's going to be, and this will all be a part of what's become known as the Black Codes or the Jim Crow laws, all right? And this would be things like literacy tests. And these tests, you'd have to prove that you're able to read and write, reading comprehension, all that stuff. And usually the answers to these questions are subject to interpretation. So it could be one of several answers. It all depends on what the person grading the test thinks the answer is. So, and you might have, I think it's like 50 questions or something like that, and you can't get a single one wrong. So it's a fixed test. No one is going to basically be able to pass this thing. All right. After the 15th Amendment is put in place, Reconstruction, a lot of people consider it to be done because the right to vote has been granted, citizenship has been granted, there's no more slavery. But the loopholes is something that they did not account for right away. All right, so how are conservatives going to respond to Reconstruction? So a lot of the Southern Republican Party is going to come into existence, mostly due to a lot of African-American votes. That means, more democratic government, more people are voting. All right. The laws are going to encourage a lot of investment and industrialization in the South from northern investors. Northern businessmen are going to start like bringing money to the South to, rebuild and, extend their own businesses and bringing jobs. That's how we're going to get a couple of names for people. We have the Redeemers. These are dominant Southern government people, and they're going to grow in power. We have the Carpetbaggers, which are greedy, white Northern businessmen who are going to exploit the cheap labor and land in the South for their own business gain. And we have the Scallywags, which are people who would from the South who would cooperate with the Carpetbaggers. All right. Now, we're also going to see the birth of the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, in Tennessee during this time in 1865. We're going to start seeing a lot of persecution of African Americans. We're going to start them trying to push for the callback to the way things used to be before the war, whereas everyone is above the blacks. All right, election of 1872. Ulysses S. Grant is going to run for re-election. We're going to see a lot of increased violence in the lead up to this election in the South. So we're going to see the addition of enforcement acts and anti-Klan laws by President Grant. A lot of Southern prosecutors don't really use it much, but it is going to work in his favor. Klan violence is going to continue and it's going to increase, but we're going to see Grant pushing back against them. And for at least a short time, they are weakened significantly. 1872, a part of the party is going to split off into the liberal Republicans, and they are going to have this guy named Horace Greeley who is going to run against Grant. Democrats also nominate Greeley, but Grant is going to win somehow, which is good, only to bring serious corruption and scandal to the office for his second term. So his second term, he's very, very unpopular. And in 1874, halfway through his second term, the Democrats are going to take over the House. And this was the dominant party of the South, like pre and post Civil War. So we're going to start seeing some reversals of laws for Reconstruction. All right. So it's going to be weakened. 1872, the Amnesty Act is going to pardon most of the ex-Confederates that are remaining. Democrats regain control of the South because of, 1870s, Reconstruction's basically over. All right, so they can start whittling it down. There's going to be a economic market crash in 1873, so there's going to be a shortage of money, which means there's going to be Northern troops that are in these Southern military districts that are going to be getting pulled back. So there's less military enforcement of the Reconstruction laws. All right. So we're going to start seeing the ability coming into play for them to undo the good work that was done. All right. So some of the things that are going to reverse Reconstruction. South Carolina is going to rule against the Reconstruction process in 3 cases. The slaughterhouse cases, which is going to basically get rid of the 14th Amendment and declare that state and national citizenship were different things. There's the Bradwell versus Illinois case, which is going to challenge sex discrimination, and said that this did not protect your right to a certain profession. And there's U.S. versus Cruikshank, where the duty of protecting citizens' rights was the states alone. So these are all things that these states that are, passing and using these laws for examples. So to justify what they want to do, it's going to basically help them pass a bunch of persecutive laws. So presidential election, 1876, we're going to see Rutherford B. Hayes be elected. It's a very, very disputed election, very, very close in the numbers. So, yeah. And Hayes is not exactly going to do much to help out. All right. So we're going to see the Compromise of 1877. Democrats would let Hayes be president if he ended the federal support for Republicans in the South and support a Southern Transcontinental Railroad. So all federal military presence in the South is going to be pulled out, and with it the protection for the freed slaves and the Republicans that are in the South. So now it's going to be open game for persecution against Southern African Americans and Republicans, no matter their race. And it will not be a great situation. All right, that is where we are going to end today. Be sure to come back next time when we will just be continuing on our roll through American history.